This is Matthew Kraters, Bitcoin University. Today I want to talk about the Magic of Bitcoin DCA. DCA just stands for dollar cost averaging, and this is when you buy a fixed fiat amount of Bitcoin at regular intervals, regardless of the price. For example, maybe you buy $100 every Monday, and when Bitcoin's price is extra low, that $100 buys you more sats than it normally would. And when Bitcoin's price is extra high, that $100 buys you fewer sats than it normally would, both of which properties help you to get Bitcoin at a better average fiat price. Dollar cost averaging, as we're going to see in this video, really is a superpower. Now, you'll often hear people say that Bitcoin has failed to keep up with inflation since its November 10th, 2021 intraday peak. That was the peak of the previous bull market, and that was roughly $69,000 per coin. So isn't everyone underwater on the recurring Bitcoin purchases since then? If we take a look at the chart, we're currently trading just north of 61,000 per coin, and that peak was right here on November 10th when it hit approximately $69,000. So we're definitely underwater from there. I'm going to use a website I really like called the Bitcoin dollar cost average.com, and this allows you to enter a starting date and ending date and decide how much you want a dollar cost average, and this provides a historical backtest of what would have happened. So if you had $100 and you invested it all at the peak on November 10th of 2021, you're definitely down on your investment. You're down 8.5%. But look what happens if instead you decided to dollar cost average. And in this example, we're going to look at dollar cost averaging weekly, bi-weekly, meaning every 2 weeks, semi-monthly, and monthly. Obviously, a one-time purchase here was not a good idea, but let's take a look at what would happen if we had dollar cost average weekly $100 worth of Bitcoin. Our return on investment would be over 102%. We would have spent $13,800 over this period, just $100 a week, and the current market value of our Bitcoin acquired would be almost $28,000. So that's 102.61%. If we had done the same thing on a bi-weekly basis, our returns would be similar. Obviously, we would have less Bitcoin because we invested less money. We were buying $100 worth of Bitcoin every 2 weeks instead of weekly. If we did it semi-monthly, and even if we did it monthly, we can see that our returns are approximately the same. Now let's see how that compares to inflation. If we take a look at the CPI, the Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, this is a chart of this. And when Bitcoin peaked in November of 2021, the last time, the CPI was at approximately 279. The last CPI reading from this year is May of 2024, and it was at 313. So that's an approximately 12.35% increase. And that's the actual inflation rate that this index is proclaiming. This obviously massively understates the real inflation that has taken place since then. This is just government lying at its best. But even if the real inflation rate, let's say, and every household has its own inflation rate, it really depends on your basket of goods and services that you're consuming. But let's say that the real inflation rate for you and your household was 20% per year. If we take that period of a couple years and a few months, it's about 60% total inflation compounded over that time. Bitcoin has still handily preserved your purchasing power, being up over 100%, no matter how you slice it. This is why it's so important to dollar cost average. It's also very, very important to hodl instead of trading in and out of Bitcoin. As Jack Bogle used to say, time in the market beats timing the market. And here's why I think Saylor has a great summary of this from March of 2024.
This is a 30-year chart of returns on the S&P index. And this chart tells you that if you missed one day, there's one day every year when 85%, 90% of all of the gains come. One day. And there are 36 hours a year when all investment return takes place. So in 365 days, nothing happens 99.5% of the time. This is why we have the laser eyes. This is why we say hodl. Because, and I have said before, trading Bitcoin is a sign of lesser intellect.
This is something I have to always remind people of on the channel, but I do think that trading Bitcoin is a sign of lesser intellect. And if you try to jump in and out of it, you're definitely going to underperform just hodling it, especially when you take into account capital gains taxes. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the subscribe and like buttons. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I post my next video, and let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.